Hey, welcome. So today, we're going to look at a whole new way of thinking about success. We're not talking about what helps on average, we're hunting for the absolute deal breakers, the one thing that, if it's missing, guarantees you're going to fail.
Just think about that for a second. In your job, in a hobby, whatever it is, what's that one thing that you just have to have? Not something that's nice to have, but the one thing where if it's gone, the whole project is dead in the water. Got something in mind? Okay, hang on to that thought.
Because that's exactly what we're digging into today, the deal breaker factor, the non-negotiable, the thing whose absence is an automatic failure.
You know, this whole idea boils down to a really simple distinction between must-haves and nice-to-haves. In project management, they even have a system for this. It's called Moscow. It forces you to get really honest about what is absolutely essential versus what's just, a bonus. One is a prerequisite, the other is just helpful. And that difference is everything.
So why is this such a big deal? Well, because for decades, we've been trained to think about success completely differently. We've been stuck thinking in averages.
Right, so the traditional way we look at data is with tools like regression. All that really means is we're looking for a trend line that goes up. The more of X you have, the more of Y you get. It's this more is better mindset. More ambition leads to better sales, on average. More ad spend gets you more revenue, on average. We're always looking for what produces an outcome.
But here's the catch. Researchers have had this gut feeling about necessity for a long time. You see it in papers all the time. They'll say something just like this, that organizational commitment is probably a necessary condition for people to show up to work. They're making a deal-breaker claim, but how are they actually testing it?
And this is where it all goes wrong. This is the classic misfit. A researcher has a really smart theory about necessity, but the tools they have are for measuring averages. So they twist their idea into a simple positive association, run a regression, and if they find a positive trend, they say, see, I was right, it's necessary. But it's not the same thing at all. They're basically using a hammer to turn a screw. It's the wrong tool for the job.
So what we really need is a complete shift in our thinking. We need to step away from the logic of averages and embrace the logic of necessity.
And here it is. The logic of necessity is stark, and it's simple. It's not about what helps you win, it's about what is required to even be in the game. The statement is just this: if not X, then not Y. Period. Full stop. The absence of that one condition guarantees the outcome is impossible.
And you know what's wild? This isn't some brand new cutting-edge idea. The philosopher David Hume was talking about causality this way back in 1756. The idea has been around forever. What's new is that we finally have the tools to actually test it with data.
And once you start looking, you see necessary conditions everywhere. You must have a certain GMAT score to even be considered for some PhD programs. You must have an internet connection to be watching this right now. In medicine, a huge one is HPV being a necessary cause for cervical cancer. Without it, the outcome just can't happen.
Okay, so how do we actually find these deal breakers in a pile of data? Well, there's a new technique for this, called necessary condition analysis, or NCA. And the secret, believe it or not, is to look for the empty space.
Let's make this real with an example. So here are the results of a standard, old-school regression analysis. It's looking at personality traits in sales performance. And you can see that sociability has a small positive effect. A traditional analyst would look at this and say, being sociable helps a little, but it's not a game changer. And they'd move on.
But NCA does something completely different. It doesn't draw a line through the middle of the data points. It draws a line over the top of them. This is called the ceiling line. And what it does is separate the area where people exist from an empty zone in the top left where nobody exists. And that empty space? That's the whole story.
Now this is where the magic happens. This is called a bottleneck table. Look at this. To achieve 80% of top sales performance, a salesperson must have a sociability score of at least 48. To hit that top 90% level, they absolutely must have a score of 73 or higher. If their score is 72, a 90% performance level is literally impossible for them. It's not an average, it's a hard floor. It's a bottleneck.
And that is the incredible insight that the old method completely missed. Sociability isn't just a minor plus. A certain level of it is a non-negotiable prerequisite, a total deal breaker for being a top performer. If you don't have it, you are guaranteed to fail at reaching those highest levels.
And once you get this new lens, you start seeing these bottlenecks all over the place. This isn't some niche, obscure method. It's exploding across tons of different fields.
I mean, just look at this list. Supply chains, business strategy, psychology, marketing, entrepreneurship, HR, you name it. Researchers are using this tool to find the critical factors that allow for success to happen, not just the ones that give it a little boost on average.
The practical payoff here is huge. When you can identify the real bottlenecks, you stop wasting time and money on the nice-to-haves when a crucial must-have is missing. It lets you focus on what's truly essential, because if that's not in place, everything else is a waste of time. You're just setting yourself up to fail.
So when you put it all together, what we really have is a fundamentally new and powerful lens for looking at the world.
It really comes down to the question you're asking. Regression asks what factors, on average, produce an outcome. But NCA asks a completely different, and maybe even more important question. What factors must be in place to allow an outcome? One is about creating success, the other is about preventing guaranteed failure.
And this is maybe the biggest takeaway of all. If a necessary condition isn't met, nothing else matters. You can't make up for it. You can be the most ambitious, knowledgeable salesperson in the world, but if you don't have that minimum level of sociability, you will never be a top performer. It's a hard stop.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Now that you have this new way of looking at things, what are the real must-haves, the true deal breakers that you might be overlooking in your own goals, in your team, or your life? What's the real bottleneck that you need to fix first?